Yesterday was absolutely insane. I got a little heated, but it's okay. I'm better now. Kind of. Let's get into this. Dolphins fans, thank you for coming and checking out the channel. I appreciate it as always. Anytime you guys like, share, subscribe, it saves a puppy. So please do that. I'm just kidding. It doesn't save a puppy, but it should. So make sure you do that. uh, after yesterday and the absolutely horrible day that it was surrounding Dolphins football, um, a little some situations became a little more clear. Number one, the Tyreek Hill situation. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out my previous video and my previous short and my previous live stream from yesterday. That's right, 3 different videos yesterday because of everything that happened. So check that out and get caught up if you haven't yet, and then come back and watch this video. This Tyreek Hill situation, I want to talk about it first, and because more things came to light about it, and quite frankly, it's still just as infuriating from the position of most Dolphins fans, and I'd assume most people on the football team as well. So the basic gist is, it started out here during the Jets game yesterday. So during the Jets game, in the second half, so as the second half started, Tyreek Hill was out on the field for the first 2 plays, first 2 snaps on offense in the second half. After that, we didn't see him again. He was off the field. He was on the sidelines and largely uninvolved in everything, not just the game, obviously, but conversations, speaking to other teammates, everything. 2 snaps into the second half. Now, that coincides with the game that was going on that the Dolphins were watching while this game was happening between the Broncos and the Chiefs. In that game, it was 24-0 and was about to be 31-0 in that game. Now, with that, that's when Tyreek Hill quit. Now, that to me tells me that he just didn't want to play anymore because he didn't see a point. Now, we'll get into some more about that in a second, but Mike McDaniel in his press conference stated that at some point during the second half, he noticed Tyreek wasn't in there, and I'm assuming it was right after this happened. He tried to put Tyreek in the game, and he was informed by an assistant coach that Tyreek was no longer available to play and that he had no new injuries. Essentially saying this was a decision and not something that was forced on Tyreek Hill. So essentially, Tyreek just quit. On his teammates, on the team, on the coaches, on the fans. He just quit. That man has a C on the chest of his uniform. That C stands for captain. And for a captain of a football team to act that way, there's no excuse for that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the epitome of bad attitude. That's all it is. It's bad attitude. We all know that all year Tyreek's been exhibiting a lot of these bad attitude qualities. And it's been going on for the couple years before this too. And I'm sure that's part of the reason why the Kansas City Chiefs let him go. Now, they did make an offer to Tyreek Hill to keep him in Kansas City, but it was not a mind-blowing contract. Let's put it that way. It was pretty chill on the money level. Now, I think the Chiefs knew what they were doing. I think they knew that they were letting a guy go that didn't really have the best attitude. And this whole year, really, Tyreek has shown it. And all these things that keep happening, the Twitter posts, the things that he's been saying, the times that he was caught screaming at players on the sideline, and then he would excuse it by saying, "No, that's not what was going on. I was doing this." Well, I'm not sure I believe anything he says anymore. So then today, after all this, I mean, like I said, this is a really bad look. And to make it even worse, The next thing that he did is he changed his profile picture on Twitter. And I don't know how many of you have seen this, but if you haven't, go to his Twitter page right now and look at his profile picture. And it's a picture of, everybody remember when Antonio Brown quit on the Bucks in the middle of a game, and he took his jersey off and ran around like screaming, "I quit, I'm out of here," and then went down to the locker rooms and left? It's a picture of that, except he takes Antonio Brown's head off of the body of Antonio Brown and superimposes his own head on that body in that picture. Essentially saying, "I quit too." That's it doesn't get any worse than that as far as the look goes, especially for a team captain. So that's the development there. And like I said, did he have the best season? No, he did not have the best season. This is his first season where he didn't finish over 1,000 yards. It's his first season where he didn't make the playoffs. But still, that's no excuse to act like a total wuss and just completely make a mockery of the fact that he's a captain. He's a captain of a football team acting like that. Ladies and gentlemen, if it doesn't bug you, it should. This isn't a, "oh, poor Tyreek" situation. This is a poor Miami Dolphins situation. He needs to go. And furthermore, I'll say that he's going to be gone. I don't see him playing another snap for the Miami Dolphins. So if you're a Tyreek Hill fan and a Dolphins fan, you're going to have to let this one go, because I'll bet you a Buffalo nickel he's not playing for us next year. Well, what do we do about Tyreek Hill? Well, there's really only one thing that we can do and not eat up a bunch of dead cap and just pay a ton of money outright and lose. So the only way that we can do that, the only financial option that the Dolphins have is to make a post-June 1st trade. Not a post-June 1st cut, not a pre-June 1st cut, not a pre-June 1st trade. Has to be a post-June 1st trade. They're going to have to make this with a team that has some cash and is willing to let go of a draft pick. Now, the best kind of trade would be, well, the first question is, what kind of team would be willing to eat dead cap from another team to have a player? Well, a team that needs a wide receiver, number one. And at this point, let him go to the New England Patriots. Let him go anywhere that needs a wide receiver. Doesn't matter if it's in our division or not. Let him go. Get him gone. You can find a team in the NFL right now, I can think of a few, that would take this kind of deal. Eat up about $16 to $26 million in cap space and give us a 4th or a 3rd round pick and take him. He's yours. That's what's going to end up having to happen in order to get Tyreek Hill gone, and I think it's a possibility. I would say that's a pretty safe bet that we could work something like that out. However, Chris Grier is going to have to actually make the moves, and they're going to have to tell Tyreek Hill, "Hey, we're going to let you go. Don't show up to team meetings. Stay away." I really think that's the way to go. He needs to have that captain emblem ripped off his jersey and be told that he's not going to be a part of the Dolphins anymore. We'll get him gone as soon as possible and start working things out with his agent. So that's where I'm at with that, and that's kind of what I feel like is going to happen. And I bet you a Buffalo nickel that you can count on that happening. I don't think there's any coming back from this. I don't think there's any walking back the things that he said and the things that he's done on Twitter recently. I don't think there's any way to go around and get that back. So I think that's the end of it. I think Mike McDaniel needs to strap on a pair and tell him that he's not part of the team anymore. And we'll get him traded ASAP. Speaking of Mike McDaniel, where do we go from here? Where do the Dolphins go? 8-9, missed the playoffs. Well, I mean, it's not going to be an easy path no matter what. It's going to require some things to happen in order to improve that, quite frankly, we haven't seen from this team. We haven't seen a coach that can learn and make better offensive play calling decisions. We haven't seen a coach that can manage time in the game better, and a head coach. We haven't seen that. We need to see that, though. That needs to happen. We haven't seen a manager, a general manager that can put a team together the right way. We haven't seen that. We've seen a general manager that makes fun of his fans. Well, I think you guys are more worried about that offensive line than we are. In fact, we were just sitting around the other day laughing about how stupid you all are. Well, how's that working out for you now, Mr. Greer? Do you see what everybody else sees now? Or are you just going to screw this up one more year? We know that Stephen Ross has said that Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer are safe for another year. They're both going to be here. We can't complain and moan that they need to be fired now that we know they're not going to be fired. I still think they need to be fired. But it's not going to happen. So I'm shifting my focus to what they need to do to improve. Because those two positions definitely need work. Head coach, general manager. So those two things, we got to figure something out here. They both got to grow. They have to grow. They can't continue doing the same things. It doesn't work. What else needs to happen? Well, first off, we need masterful salary cap work this year. Now, we do have a front office that is pretty good at managing the salary cap. I don't know how they did it last year, but they did. And they'll do it again this year, I'm sure of it. Now, we're going to let go a lot of players. Going to have to. We can't stay old. We're going to have to get young. So we need that masterful salary cap work. Free up some space. Pick up a couple mid-range type of free agents. Nothing, no big splashes where you could give up draft picks. But maybe a couple free agents, and I'll talk about that in a second more. We need a draft that's not sexy. A draft where we're not going after the 5'9" speedsters or the 180-pound running backs. We don't need that kind of draft. We're not looking for a first-round quarterback. But we have Tua and he needs I know. We need something in the quarterback position as well. I'll get to that in a second here. First and foremost, in the draft and in free agency, we need an O-line. We need to rework our entire offensive line, mainly in the draft. Like I said, I would not be against having 80 to 90% rookies for our linemen, for our offensive line. I would not be opposed to that. Linemen learn. And as far as offensive linemen go, generally you either have it or you don't. You're going to be able to improve, or you're going to sit and you're going to tread water. We need to look for the ones that have the ability to grow and improve. Can Chris Greer draft a bunch of offensive linemen or find maybe one or two in free agency that aren't trash? Can he do that? Because I haven't seen it. So, offensive line, mainly in the draft, maybe look into free agency, but I wouldn't focus there for our offensive linemen. Defensive line, that's got to be mainly the draft too. We need to look in the draft. We have 10 draft picks this year. So we should be able to do offensive line and D-line mainly in this draft. We also need a couple defensive backs. Safeties, maybe a corner. And most of that we could probably find in free agency. And non-big splash plays. No Jalen Ramsey's type players. We don't need that. We need players that can learn and grow and play well together. Chemistry, Chemistry, that thing that a lot of teams have that sometimes we don't even seem like we know what it means. We need that. Oh, let's see. Here's the big one. Another big one. Possibly two QBs, two quarterbacks. Now, I'm not saying replace Tua. I'm not saying don't replace Tua. I'm saying a good old-fashioned quarterback controversy in preseason. I'm saying Tua, obviously, we have to hang on to him for at least another year. Doesn't make sense money-wise otherwise. So Tua, and then we need to pick up two QBs. My ideal situation would be to find a veteran that's a proven quarterback in the NFL. Find a veteran who's willing to play second string, but also willing to try out for the starting job. Pick that veteran up in free agency for not a lot of money, $5-6 million, a smaller contract. There's going to be quarterbacks out there, and I'll get into that in another video. So you need that quarterback, a veteran quarterback, and you also need to draft one in the draft. You need one in the draft, 4th, 5th round, maybe. You get those two things, and we won't have to worry about this quarterback crap anymore. Tua gets hurt. If Tua ends up being the starter again, Tua gets hurt. Oh, no big deal. We have somebody who can actually win a game. And no offense to Snoop Huntley, but it's just not enough. And a couple weeks ago in a video, I said after he had that good game, I said Snoop's deal is he has a good game, then he has a couple bad games, then a good game. It's just not enough. We need someone who can be a little more consistent when we need them. So that's the other thing we need. And I also, the one little thing that I thought of that would be really nice to have is Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel love to go after these 5'9", 5'0" receivers. What if just once we looked in the draft for one receiver between 6'2" and 6'4", or 6'5" even? A tall receiver with good hands. What if we did that? Could you imagine how great that would be in the red zone? How great that would be for them throw up balls? Go and get it, big man. Think Jonnu Smith with a lot more speed. Those are things that we need. That's what we should be looking for in this offseason. We also need to trim the fat, and we need to get young. How do you do that? You cut a lot of players, and that's what we need. We need to do it. We need to cut a lot of players and get young. Does that mean we're going to have the greatest season this year coming up? I don't know. Usually when you get young, you have a lot of mistakes on the field, but you also have the chance for growth and for a team to meld together and play well, and they'll figure it out as the season goes. We need to get young. We have to. Otherwise, we're not going to go anywhere in this NFL. It's not going to happen. We're the oldest team in the NFL, and that needs to change. I talked about Greer. Can he clean up his mess? The mess that he's created on this team. If Greer's not going anywhere, he needs to clean it up. It's that simple. Do I think he's going to do it? No, I don't think he's going to do it, but I want him to. I hope he does. I'm going to be praying for it. We also need to pray that Mike McDaniel can grow as a play caller. He has to. As a play caller and a coach. We saw a couple things. I saw a couple things that I liked in him, that I noticed he was doing better. And then he has a couple games where he doesn't do anything better. He does it all worse again. We need more consistency from our head coach. How can we expect consistency from our players when our head coach can't give the same thing? Unreal. That's what needs to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Now, also, tomorrow is the end of the season interview with Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer. That'll be Tuesday. That's what I think it's Tuesday. It could be Wednesday. So Tuesday or Wednesday, the interview with the media for the end of the season interview is supposed to be happening. Now, when that happens, I'll be watching. Oh man, believe me, I'll be watching. And I'll report back on in a video. I'll make a video about it, talking about it. But I really hope that Dolphins media is able to ask those tough questions. The ones that risk offending Mike McDaniel and risk offending Chris Greer. I hope that the people who are asking the questions in that media room stand up for the fans a little bit. Stand up for all of us that spend hundreds, thousands of dollars on this team every year. Stand up for the little man and the fans. The ones that are invested in this team year after year, put all this effort in, and are given a flat product. Are given a garbage result that they don't deserve. Dolphins fans, you deserve better than what you're getting. We all do. And it's not going to happen until Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel grow up take their proverbial thumbs out of their butts and do this right. If Stephen Ross is so sure that they're going to stay and they're the best thing for this team together, then freaking prove it. Show all the fans that you've insulted repeatedly. Show all the fans that you can change. Because Dolphins fans are sick of it. There's Dolphins fans all over jumping ship, giving up, quitting on this team. It's disgusting. As an owner and as a GM and as a head coach, the last thing you should want is to influence the fan base to quit. That's not an insult to the fan base. They're jaded. They're tired of constantly losing. Being the laughing stock of the NFL because of idiots like Tyreek Hill running his mouth when he's just too mad to give an interview. Get out of here and grow up. You're making millions of dollars to play a game. Grow up. Mike McDaniel, you're making millions of dollars to stand on a sideline and call plays for a game. Put some actual pants on and grow up. Chris Greer, you're making millions of dollars playing God with a football team. Make some changes and grow up. That's what needs to happen. I'll put a video out tomorrow after the what I'm sure to be is a circus for this interview with Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel, but I will put a video out after I watch it a few times and soak it all in. And I'll report back. In the meantime, Dolphins fans, I know it's hard. I know it's rough. I know you don't deserve it. But stick with me. And let's see what happens. In the meantime, stay hopeful and fins up. I gotta go play some Minecraft with my kids.